Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So you've already seen the picture. The model was a 19-inch head, so a little child's head or a small adult might have a 19-inch head. I'm a grown adult. I'm short. I'm tiny, and my head is 21.5 inches. So this is a 19. This will fit a 19-inch head, which is typically a child's head. So if you need it smaller, you can go down in hook size. I'm using a 5mm, so if you need it smaller than 19 inches, then you can go down to 4.5. If you want it at baby size, you can go even lower. The pattern's going to remain the same. So let's get started. So all my yarns today are a 4-weight medium worsted. Every single one of them was bought at Walmart. My light on my camera's down a bit, but this is actually the color is yellow that you get at Walmart. All of this is worsted you get at Walmart. It's a Red Heart Super Saver. So that's what I am using today. You don't need to, but just know that the size will be different. Not by much at all. You won't have to change. So if you're using just a regular yarn and not a worsted yarn, that you can still use your 5mm, which is probably what your yarn calls for anyway, and it'll be perfectly fine. If you're using the worsted, my hat, even though it sits on, I mean, you've seen the picture, even though it sits on a 19-inch head, it's not tight. It's pretty loosey-goosey, so it gives room for the child. If you're using just a regular weight yarn, it's going to be absolutely perfectly fine. It's just going to give a better fit, not a loose fit. But I prefer working with this instead. So we're going to start with a magic ring. We instantly do a chain 1 when you do a magic ring like I do. So we're going to add another chain to that because we're going to be working in double crochets. I'm going to turn my light down a bit so that you can see my yarn better, hopefully. I mean, it's white on white. But really, oh, I just turned it up. Sorry, let me turn it down. Really, though, it's just a double crochet. I mean, I'm not doing anything fancy or anything, but that should be good. So inside this magic ring, you're going to do 10 double crochets. Pull it closed. So in this project we are going to do a slip stitch and a chain 2. So for every single round we're going to put a double crochet into that same space as your chain 2. That's how we're starting every single round. The reason being is because I don't like seams. So my seam is directly at the back of my project and you can hardly see it. It's right there. So if you follow my directions, you're not going to have a seam that's going to be noticeable, because I mean, when this is on a head, you can hardly see my seam now. So if you follow my directions, we're not going to have a seam mark that's that prominent. So you're going to put 2 double crochets in each of these stitches. This counts, by the way. Alrighty, so you see this stitch right here that everybody tells you not to use. It's not a stitch, don't go into it, it's fake, blah blah blah. Boy, that seems really dark. Yeah, I'm gonna go into that stitch and I'm gonna put 1 double crochet. And I'm gonna do that for every single round. And that's how you get no seam, basically no seam. Slip stitch, double crochet. Your next round is going to be, we're going to increase now. Every single round is going to be an increase. So before we begin, put your double crochet into that chain 2 space, and then you're going to do 1 double crochet and an increase. So that's your 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet. So that's your increase, is 2 in the same space. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets. So I've come back around. I've got my 30 stitches, but I'm still going to put that extra one in there because I do not like seams, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Slip stitch, chain 2, and put your double crochet in that chain 2 space. So your next round is going to be 2 double crochets and an increase. There's 1, there's 2, and then your increase is 2 double crochets in the same space. So at this point you should have 40 stitches, and that's what my word prompts are telling you. So I've already slip stitched and chain 2. You're going to put a double crochet in that chain 2 space. Then you're going to do 3 double crochets and an increase. That takes you up to 50 stitches. Because we started with 10 double crochets in the beginning, every row is going to increase by 10. So there's my 3 double crochets, and then 2 double crochets in the same space for the increase. So your next round is going to be 4 double crochets and an increase. So we're going to put our double crochet in the same space as your chain 2. That's 4 double crochets. Then in your next stitch is 2 double crochets in the same space for your increase. And repeat. So your next round is going to be 5 double crochets and an increase. So this will be our final round, and we should have 70 stitches at the end of the round, and then we're just going to do straight up double crochets in every stitch. So put your double crochet into that same space as your chain 2. Five double crochets. and then 2 double crochets in the same space. For your increase, and repeat. So this is what you should have. It is starting to roll. It goes this way. So for the next 5 rounds, you're going to just put 1 double crochet in each stitch around. You should have 70 stitches. And if you need this to be an adult size, like a 22, 21 and a half, 22-inch head, if you're making this for a grown-up, you're going to have to keep going around till you have about 106 stitches, I think, would be probably suffice, would be enough for an adult size head. But anyway, so I'm going to leave you to your 5 rows, but don't forget, you have to, because this is our seam, which is absolutely, you can't even see it. So you just try to continue to do double crochet in the same space as your chain 2, and then this forbidden fake stitch that you're not supposed to use, make sure you use it, because this is what you get when you use it. You get no seam. So go ahead and do your 5 rows, and I'll meet you right back here. Alrighty, so I'm at the end of my 5th row, and I just got a slip stitch to the top of that chain. Oops. So at this point, I just split my yarn. Let me try that again. You can fasten off, because we're going to have to reattach in another spot. So we can just tuck this bad boy to the underside. So try to actually weave and not just stick it in wherever, and try to go different directions. Let me go this way, but try not to go all the way through the hat, because you don't want to see this on the other side, that's for sure. So they say 3 different directions, confuses the yarn. So I'm going to go back this way, down a bit. So you can go, you won't be able to see it from this side, so, and it's really not that noticeable from the other side. But you certainly don't want your child's hat to pop open. So I may take extra precautions, but I also know with certainty that my stuff's not going to fall apart. Although I did make a caterpillar once, and one of its feet fell off. But I don't know how aggressive the child was with playing with it, but one of my feet fell off, so I just want to be extra careful. So that's my seam. Hopefully yours looks the same, which is almost not recognizable as a seam. It's hard to see. So let's take care of this guy in the center as well. So normally I would just tie a knot if I'm making an arm or whatever. I would just tie a knot and, you know, be done with it. But this is a hat. It's going to be on a head. So you actually want to weave this in. Do you ever notice that I can't talk and work at the same time? So find your back again. There's my back. So I've got my seam right in front of my face. I'm going to fold the hat in half. I'm going to get a bunch of my stitch markers. So instead of just telling you numbers, I'm going to show you how I designed the ear flaps. This may seem unorthodox, but that's me. I can be a weirdo. So all I did was I folded the hat in half. So that's my seam, which is hard to see, I know, which is what we want. So right here on the end, you've got 2 stitches. Pick one. I'm going to pick the one closest to the front, because that's my back. So the one closest to the front, but you got 2 kind of right on the corner. I'm going to do the same thing with this side. I've got these 2, but I'm going to pick the one closest to the front. So once I've got my stitch markers in here, all I did was count 5 stitches on either side. It is an uneven number. If you need an even number, then you just count differently than me. So I counted 5 on either side of the marker, not counting the space the marker's in. And I counted 5 on either side. So that's 5th stitch. I put a marker. And I did the same thing this way. 2, 4, 5th stitch. I put a marker. And then I repeated the same thing on this side. So now I can take the middle ones out. And I've got my start and my stop points for the ear flaps. So let's reconnect. So all you're going to do is make a slip knot. Sorry, that was a little blurry. Let me get lower. Make a slip knot. So make an X. Then you're going to take this guy, you're going to lift him up, and you're going to grab the guy on underneath, and you're going to pull. Or you're going to stick your hook in there and pull. So that's just a slip knot. So make it as small as your hook, and we're going to take it off, set it aside. So go into your hat, add your yarn, pull through. You're going to make a stitch, but then you're going to, because we're going to do double crochets for the ear flaps obviously. So even though you've made a single crochet by attaching, I still want you to put a double crochet in that same space. So that's going to be the stitch you use. So the single crochet is just for attaching. It's not going to be a working stitch. So that's the single crochet there. We're not going to use it. We're just going to use this one right there. And you won't be able to tell once the hat's done. So now I just want you to double crochet all the way across to your other stitch. You should have 11 double crochets. So that's 10, and then 11 is underneath my marker. You're going to chain 2, and you're going to turn. You're going to do 11 double crochets, making sure to get into this first stitch. So if you're holding it like this, you're not going to see that first stitch. You're going to go into this one, which won't be right. You got to pull it back, and there's a stitch right in there. You're going to put a double crochet in the first stitch and all the stitches across. So you need 11. So remember these 2 stitches from the beginning. That's your single crochet that you attached with, and that's the double crochet you made. You're going to go into that double crochet that you made, which isn't an easy stitch. It's like any other stitch. It's awkward. So chain 2 and turn. So we're going to start decreasing our ear flaps. So a decrease on either side. So both sides, you're going to need 4 stitches altogether, 2 on this side, 2 on this side to do a decrease. So starting in this very first stitch, you're going to do a double crochet decrease. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to go into your first stitch, you're going to pull through, and then pull through 2 and stop. You're going to yarn over again, go into your second stitch, pull through 2, then pull through 3. So that's how you do a double crochet decrease. So you're going to decrease the first 2, then you're going to decrease the last 2. So in the middle here, you should have 7 double crochets. So that's 7. I've got 2 stitches left, and I'm going to do a decrease. Pull through 2 and stop. Yarn over and go into the last stitch. Pull through 2. Sorry, that cut me off. My camera only runs for so long and then it turns itself off. So chain 2 and turn. I'll have to show you that again. So yarn over, making sure you get into this first stitch. Pull through 2 and stop. Yarn over, go into your next stitch. Pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. You should have 5 double crochets to do before your next decrease. So I got 2 stitches left. I'm going to yarn over, go into the first one, pull through 2 and stop. I'm going to yarn over, go into the last one, pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through 3. Chain 2 and turn. Again, we're going to do a decrease. Then you do 3 double crochets. The last 2 stitches, you're going to do a decrease. Chain 2 and turn. Start off with a decrease. One double crochet in the middle and then decrease. Alright, we got 3 stitches. You're probably wondering, what in the heck do we do with 3 stitches? We make an awesome point. That's what we do. Ha ha ha. So you're going to do a decrease. And then you're going to do a double crochet. And that should give you a nice point on the end, just like that. And you're going to fasten off. So go ahead and do your second ear flap. I'll put the words on the screen and I'll meet you back here. I got my ear flaps done. Find the middle of your hat. I've decided to use red, not pink. For my Hello Kitty, you can use whatever color you want. So find your seam, go into the stitch right beside it. You're going to make a slip stitch. Take it off. So go into the stitch next to your seam, the only stitch that you can really get into. You're going to pull through and make a single crochet, but we're going to half double crochet around this entire hat. So weaving in my end to the inside of the hat, we're going to half double crochet, starting in this hole that you already attached with. No, I just did a double. Oh my good lord. So half double crochet, if you don't know, is yarn over, go into your space, pull through. So it's almost like a double, but you yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. That's a half double. So I'm going to weave in my tail because I don't want to weave in the red through the white, even on the inside. So you're just going to go every single stitch, you're just going to put a half double crochet all the way around the ear flaps and back up to here. The reason I chose red instead of pink is because I already did pink. So I am just going to cut this off. I already did pink, so because I've got 3 granddaughters. If another one of them, I know one of them wants a Hello Kitty hat. If the other one wants Hello Kitty hat, then at least they won't be matching. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least there'll be a color difference. They won't have to look like twins. But then I'm also doing a mermaid hat, so she may want a mermaid hat. But just in case she decides. So this is why I decided to go for red. It's hard to please little girls. My one granddaughter, River, she's a Vampirina fan, so I was working on a Vampirina hat, an ear flap hat, but I'm having a problem putting a face on it because it looks horrible with a face. So you may see a hat come off my channel that's Vampirina hat, but no face. So when you get to the tippy top of the ear flap, you've got 1 stitch here you can follow for your half double, and then your next kind of stitch, it's not really a stitch but it's kind of a stitch, I want you to put 2 in there. It just rounds off the corner nicely, and then you can put 1 in there. So I'm going to continue all the way around and I'll meet you on the other side. Oh, and by the way, I should mention, I'm just sticking my needle in wherever I can stick my needle in because there's no stitches to follow. So I'm just jamming my needle wherever I can get it in, wherever I think a good spot is. So there's no stitch count. There's no rhyme or reason for what I'm doing. I'm just sticking it in. So I'm back around. That's my seam, so I made sure to use that last stitch. So you can just slip stitch into the top of that stitch there, and you can fasten off. And next we'll be doing the face parts. Okay, so I know I said we were going to do face parts, but I decided we're going to make the ears next because I forgot we even had to make ears. But cats have ears. So, you can do a magic ring of 6 single crochets. So instead of 2 single crochets in each stitch like we normally do, move my camera, maybe not. We're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase right off the hop because we want a point on the end of our ears like cats have. So that's my, oh my god, I should put all my stitch markers away. That's my 1 single crochet, so that's what gets the stitch marker, is your first stitch. And then my next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets. Next stitch gets 1, next stitch gets 2. So your increase is just 2 stitches in the same hole. Next stitch gets 1, next stitch gets the increase. So that gives you about 9 stitches, not about 9 stitches, it gives you 9 stitches. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So that's your first one. That's your second one. And then your increase. So 1 1 2 1 1 2. So the shove 12 stitches and a decent point. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. So that should bring you up to 15 stitches. That's number 1. Three single crochets and then your increase. And repeat. So if you've done everything right, you should end your sequence with 2 single crochets at your marker. If you've done something wrong, that's not what's going to happen. So for the next 3 rows, you're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch, and then you're going to fasten off. That's your ear. So fasten off if you're going to work ahead of me. Well, I guess we're all working ahead, but fasten off the sewing tail. You're going to stuff this a little bit. So fasten off for the sewing tail. You should have 15 stitches. You're going to do 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in each of those 15 stitches. And I'll see you on the other side. So I got both my ears done. I got a little bit of stuffing in, didn't do much. It's up to you whether you want stuffing or not. And then I just sewed the end closed. So they're all ready to be sewn to the hat. We're going to make everything and then we're going to do all the sewing at the end. Kind of gives you a different perspective as to where things need to go. So let's do eyes next. They're so quick. They're so quick, you have no idea. You're going to do a magic ring with your 5mm. And you put 6 single crochets. Pull your thing. Go in and slip stitch and fasten off. That's your eye. So fasten off with enough to sew with. That's your eyeball. So it doesn't need to be big because it's just a wee little hat for a wee little girl. So pull your end tight. You know, you don't have to weave this in. You can make a knot. It doesn't have to be a tight knot. If you tighten this knot, it could still kind of slip through, so you don't really want to tighten this knot. And when I sewed these on, I didn't actually completely sew them on. I kind of just tied them. So we'll set these aside. And we'll get our yellow for our nose. I'm going to light my camera up a little bit now that we're not working with white anymore. So the nose is going to be no magic ring. You're going to do a slip knot. You're going to chain 3. You're going to go 1 single crochet into the next stitch. The last stitch, you're going to do 4 single crochets, all in the same stitch. So pull your slip knot shut, because that's what opens. So you're going to turn it. So this is what we were just doing. That's your slip knot. You're going to turn it like this. You're going to put 1 single crochet right next, that's the slip knot. So there's a stitch right next to that slip knot. You're going to put a single crochet in there. And then you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And fasten off with a sewing tail. So again, you can pull your slip knot closed. That's your little oval nose. You're going to make another knot. And again, I'm going to use this tail to put a knot. I'm still going to sew it on. I'm just not going to knot it on. But so that's your nose. So everything's done. I'd reach my hat. So make sure that you're at the front. Make sure your seam is at the back, even though it's really hard to see. So when I sewed ears on, it was very difficult for me to do, but I don't sew well. And it's kind of hard when there's nothing underneath this sucker. So I sewed the ears on fairly close to the hole. I'm like 1 row down. So I can't really make any suggestions to you other than I'm holding it with my hand here while I try to attach it. So I'm going to go into the hat and then into the ear. This is very, very, very difficult for me as somebody who doesn't sew to do something like this. So I just went in and out, holding the ear down like this. So I've got my one ear sewn on, and I think it's probably sewn on pretty good. It feels pretty tight. So under here, and this is the ear here that I've got in my hand, I'm going to go down into the ear. And I'm just going to pop up because I want to make a knot. So pull back and forth like that to tighten your knot. It really tightens down good. And then I'm just going to put another one just for safekeeping. I'm going to put another knot going the other direction. And then you can weave in or cut off or do whatever. So I'm just going to cut that off. So it looks different on a head, but that's my ear. So my ears are now on, so at this point we kind of have an idea of, oh, you know what we forgot to make is the bow. Let's do that. And then we'll have a better idea where the hair is going to go. So I'm going to do my bow in red, but you can do your bow in whatever color you're using for whatever color you did around your hat and whatever color you're going to use for this. Mine today is going to be red. So you're just going to do another slip knot. So there's two parts to this bow. This is the first part. Chain 13. So for the next 6 rounds, you're going to put 12 single crochets in this bad boy. So single crochet 12. That's my 12. Pull my slip knot closed. You're going to chain 1 and turn. So you're going to do this till you basically have 8 rows. And I will meet you back and we'll do the little tie thing in the middle. Don't forget, you got to get into this first stitch. So don't hold it like this. Pull this back. Find that first stitch, and then don't forget the last stitch, which is a turny over kind of a stitch. You want to keep your sides straight. This is a bow, so like a blanket or a scarf or anything, it's kind of imperative because you don't want a funny looking bow. So it's kind of imperative that you keep your edges straight, and the only way to keep your edges perfectly straight is to make sure you're getting into this first stitch and then this last stitch. I'll show you, because most people go to this stitch and they think they're done. They just think that's a little overhang. Well, that's not an overhang. If you have a V looking at you, a V shape, you have one more stitch, and it's right there. That guy right there. That's a stitch. You got to make sure you get into that stitch to keep your sides straight. And then make sure you're getting into the first stitch to keep this side straight. So anyway, continue and I'll meet you back here. Okay, that's my 8. So I am going to, you don't need to do this. I'm going to tell you there's a couple of things you can do here. So I've made my bow and I crocheted a little dealio for the center of the bow. When I make smaller bows, I cut off enough, I weave, I take my needle and I weave across half the stitches, so 6 stitches across, and then I wrap with the yarn. I just wrap the middle of my bow. So there are 2 ways you can do it, and then you would just, you know, cut it off, tie a knot in the back where you wrapped it, and then sew it to your thing. I'm going to make my center because I think the bow looks better that way. So that means I'm not going to need a sewing tail because I'm just going to use what I finish with. You'll see what I mean. So just cut enough off. If you're going to do what I'm going to do, you just cut enough off that you can just weave this in, both ends in. Doesn't matter where, as long as it's weaved in. You can go across your stitches if you want. So when you pull, not sure what the heck that's there for. So when you pull back so it doesn't get out of shape. I have no idea what this is. I must have snagged something on there. That looks horrible. Anyway, I'm gonna hide this. I'm afraid if I try to cut that off, it's just gonna unravel my whole bow, so I'm just gonna leave it and hope it just gets hidden in the bow. I don't think my grandkids are really gonna care. If it looks too bad, I'll just make another one off camera. So pull your corner back out so it's not distorted. So I didn't need any of these, so I just tucked them both in. So to make the center, you're gonna make a slip knot. This is fast. You're gonna chain 4. And then for the next 10 rounds, I just single crocheted 3. So that's what I did. I'll meet you back after 10 rows. Don't forget to chain 1 and turn in between, and don't forget to get into all of those 3 stitches. So I've got my 10 rows done. So if you don't like the raw edge, which I do, I love the raw edge, you can put a single crochet in each, well, not really stitches, wherever you can jam your needle in, you can do 1 single crochet around. But I like the raw edge, so I'm going to fasten off here. So I'm going to fasten off for the tail to not only sew this shut around the bow, but to sew the bow to the hat. I almost said the doll, because I have done a Hello Kitty doll. I do a lot of dolls. So tuck this guy away because you don't need him at all. So this is all in my Etsy shop. So if you would like written patterns more than watching a video, I've got a crap ton of patterns in my Etsy shop. You can find that link below. So you're going to squish this guy down like that. You're going to wrap him around. So preferably at the back, you're going to sew. On camera might be more helpful. So I'm just going to make sure that this is turned right around to the back, whichever way you want your back. And I'm just going to whip stitch. Well, I'm going to kind of whip stitch. So a whip stitch is back loop to back loop, and I'm going to go in all the loops, all 4 of them. It doesn't give it any better of a hold. I just don't need to be neat about it. We use whip stitches just to be neat about it, but this is getting sewn to the hat. You're not even going to see this part. So once I have that, which is not tight, like I can still move this around, so you can do whatever you want. Oh, that is going to drive me insane. There, I'm going to pull that down so that's still sticking up a bit. But that's going to be at the back sewn to the doll, you know, or the hat. You're not going to see it. Anyway, so that's the front of my bow. That's what your bow's going to look like. So let's sew this bow on. So after I've sewed my side shut, I'm going to come up here. I want to make a knot because I want this to be snug. Pick an ear, any ear, and you're going to sew right near the ear. So I'm just going to go down and I'm just going to grab some hat. I would say I'm a poet and didn't know it, but I already know I am. Published. But anyway, that's another day, another story. Make sure it's where you want it. I want it like literally right at the ear, just to have enough room for, so I'm going to go down into the hat and just go back and forth. Make my life easy. I'm so used to sewing on stuff that's stuffed. I had to reteach myself how to sew the other way. And if you follow me long enough, you know I don't sew well. So I'm just trying to keep my my stuff underneath that bow tie, the bow tie, because I don't want anybody to see. But I'm still trying to keep it nice and neat. So I would say that's probably good. I only got a couple of things in here. So when I do my knot, I need to make sure that I am staying underneath this bow so you can't see it through the hat. But I also went into the bow just to make it tighter. And then I'm going to go through the loop and I'm going to make my knot. And I'm going to come back the other way, going into the bow. I'm going to make another knot through that loop. Really back and forth tug creates a nice knot that's very hard to get open. And then I'm going to weave a little bit but not much. But I am going to go down into the bow and do some weaving. But it's up to you. It's your hat. And that's nice and tight, so I'm just going to snip her off. And that's our bow. So now we know where we can put our eyes. So everything's a little distorted right now until you get it on a head of a little girl. But it gives you an idea of where your eyes can go. I'm going to pin mine because pinning stuff in place and then standing back and looking at it works better for me. So I'm going to come down decently low on this because this cat has no mouth and I need room for the whisker. So this cat has no mouth, it just has this nose. So I wanted the nose down fairly low to the brim. So that's what I came up with. And then keep in mind, the whiskers kind of make it too, so it's hard to see when it's not on a hat. I at least have the other one to compare it to, but it's hard to tell. So the whiskers come right off the side of the head, literally. So that looks like it's fairly in the middle. I got my nose lined up with my middle guy there. So I'm going to start sewing stuff on. Tilt you down a bit. So I like to hold things close to me when I sew. First things first, let's stick this guy down through the hat because we're going to use him to tie onto. So I probably have an extra long sewing tail, but I like to have the room to be able to sew however I want and as many times as I want. And my needle just came undone. Sometimes you gotta lick it to stick it. So I'm gonna do long stitches in the back, short stitches in the front. Not that they're gonna be overly noticeable because it's black. And black is just very hard to see. So really you only need to put like 6 stitches in this. It's only a magic ring of 6. So when I come back around to my my tie, I'm gonna tie this really tight, like really pull on that, and I'm gonna do a double knot, and it's gonna be ever so small. You won't even be able to feel it. I can't even feel that. I can't even feel the yarn. So it's not gonna feel horrible on your kid's head or anything. So we do the same thing with this guy. There, I might have to fix him a bit. Anyway, I'm going to go sew the nose on and then I'll meet you back here. Next is the whiskers. They are difficult. They are difficult to get into the same spot on either side. So I had to do this a couple of times. So you need a nice long piece. We're going to do all 3 at the same time with one piece. Well, actually, if I can get 6 in there, I'm going to do it. So I don't know how long that is. A couple 30 inches? I don't know. So I am going to do the same concept. I'm going to leave this piece to tie at the back, because I'd rather tie it than just do a slip knot and just leave it weaved in. So these are very difficult to do because they're not actually difficult to do. Technically, they're fairly easy, but they're hard to get even on both sides. So leave some at the back for tying. Don't pull this all the way through. You won't need all this anyway. So come come up to a spot, and when you go down, you're going to come down and you're going to pop out where you want your next whisker to start. So then when you pull, hold the thing at the back. So don't pull tight, because this is going to be going on a child's head. You're going to want the give. So your next stitch, you're going to go in and you're going to come out where you want your third one to start. And then you can put your third one in wherever you want. I'm going to go up here. And if you don't like the look of it, then you can turn around and do it again. Actually, this one I'm going to change. The reason I'm going to change is because I'm going to kind of lower. I'm going to lower where it goes in. I had to do this so many times on my other one. If you could just get things right the first time, this world would be great. So you can, because we have enough, you can just kind of skip across the hat and do the other side. However, there's a hat that goes on a child's head, so you kind of can't. But what we want to do is at the back, and don't pull tight, but you want to just kind of weave over to the other side. Only on this side. You don't want to go through to the other side, because you'll see it and you don't want to see it. So you got to make sure that you're just grabbing the loops at the back. And I'm just going to scooch my way over to where I left my tail, and I'm going to tie an ever so light knot. I want the knot small, but I really don't want to pull tight on the first knot. I want to pull tight on the second knot, and then you can cut it off. If you pull tight on the first knot, this is going to get all distorted, and you don't want that distorted. So those are whiskers number 1. Using your same piece, hopefully you can get 3 more whiskers out of your same piece. This is where it gets tricky. You got to try to match it up. Okay, so I got my whiskers are not horrible. They don't quite match, but I mean, so that's the inside ear hat, which you obviously can see for yourself. So the last thing we have to do is put these ties on. So I measured these at 33 inches. And we still cut off a good chunk. But, so I did 6 red and 6 white. So you can go ahead and do all that. If you want yours just red, then do 12. If you want yours just white, do 12. But I did 6 red, 6 white, 33 inches. And I'll meet you back here when you're done. Alright, now that you're all done, so we're going to separate these. So we need to separate these evenly. So 6 and 6. So I have 3 white and 3 red. You're going to find a spot in your ear flap that is not necessarily central, but close enough. So I'm upside down and backwards because I'm trying to do this on camera. So stick your hook through there. You're going to want to pull tight to get your hook right around it all and pull through. So then you're going to pull it until it's even here. So pull it until it's even. And then you're going to tie a knot up here. So pull ever so tightly. That's the front of my hat. And we're going to braid. So you want to separate these into 3 sections of 4. So I've got 2 red, 2 white. I'm going to do the same thing with the middle section, and then the same thing with the last section. And then you're just going to braid. So if you don't know how to braid, let me start again. You have your 3 sections. Let me get on camera. You have your 3 sections. You're going to take this and you're going to go over the middle, and then you're going to pull the middle out. You still have 3 sections. You're always just going over the middle. So now you're going to put that over the middle and you're going to pull the middle out. So now this piece is the middle. And you're going to go over the middle and pull the middle out. So all you're doing is going over the middle, but the middle is constantly changing. So that's how you braid. So we braid all the way down. You can braid as far down as you want. You can stop right here if you want and then leave these tangling, but you're not going to be able to do it up very well around the child's neck. So these are meant to have a purpose. They are meant to tie up underneath the child's neck so that the ear flaps actually work. So these are only fall hats. They're not winter hats. They're not made of wool or cotton. But I mean, I just used acrylic, which is still water resistant. So once you get down far enough that you think that you've got enough to leave a knot, you're just going to grab this whole thing. Don't worry about grabbing the braid because you're going to have to make a knot. But you can pull that down. You just want to make sure you get all the pieces of yarn in there. So before you tighten it, just pull it down to where there's no knot or no braid. Actually, I braided too far. So don't do what I did. I was trying to scooch it down and I ended up tightening it. So we get it to the bottom of the braid and now we can tighten it. So pull it as tight as you can, and then you're gonna leave whatever you want to leave. You can put a pom-pom on the bottom of that too if you wanted to. So that's one side. There, I got my 2 ties done. So if you want this bigger, you can go ahead and do that. Just know that when you tie it, it's not going to tie very well. Like, it won't stay tied if it's any bigger. And you certainly don't want to be messing around all the time. So there we have it. Our Hello Kitty hat in red. Our Hello Kitty hat in pink. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.